Hey everybody, it's Joel Williams and Chase Elleby coming to you today with week number 7 of our video series of 52 weeks of personal injury. Today we want to talk about 7 secrets to getting a big settlement. That's really just the title of the video because it's catchy, but really what we mean is 7 ways to maximize the value of your personal injury case.
Yeah, let me say, you do not want a big settlement. If you get a big settlement, you are badly injured. You're dead, something bad's happened, right? So first things first, you don't want
you can't get a big settlement with a small injury?
No, I know, right? Who would have thought, right? So
bummer.
I know. So it's sort of a misnomer, right? In the industry, you always see the billboards with the big checks. I got $1 million and the person's smiling and happy. Anytime our clients have recovered millions of dollars, they're never smiling, they're never happy, because it's always a tragic situation behind that. So, but we don't want to talk necessarily about that. I want to talk about ways to effectively pursue your case and do everything right to make sure that you maximize your recovery once it comes time to send the demand and settle your case. So
yeah, and it really, these tips will apply regardless of the size of your case, whether you're catastrophically injured or some minor injury. Hopefully these things will apply to all of those situations. So the first thing, regardless of how you were injured, the first thing you need to do is seek medical care immediately, because the longer you wait to seek medical care, the more it seems like your injuries aren't that bad, right? And they may not be that bad, but if they're not bad enough to justify seeking medical care, they're probably not bad enough to pursue any significant personal injury claim.
Right. And I always tell my clients, you want to document your injuries as well, right? A lot of people, when they get hurt, they want to rub dirt on it. You know, it's an inconvenience, move along and not have to worry about it. But it's one thing for me to tell the insurance adjuster, hey, John Smith got hurt in this wreck. He hurt his neck, his back, and his shoulder. It's a completely different thing for me to say, well, here are all these things, and by the way, here are all the medical records documenting the injury. So that's very important.
Yeah, exactly. So try not to wait too long to go to the doctor. What's tip number 2?
So tip number 2 is contact a lawyer, right? And that doesn't necessarily mean hire a lawyer, but just call someone, get some advice on how you should pursue your case. I talk to people pretty regularly about, they'll call right after a wreck and say, this is what happened, what do I need to do, and that type of thing. And a lot of times I say, you don't need me yet. Just make sure that you are going to the doctor, getting checked out. But it's very, very important, I think, to contact a lawyer and speak to someone, get some advice on the front end about what to do and what not to do. Yeah,
and I would say do that before you start spilling your guts to the insurance adjuster.
Oh, right, for sure.
Because usually after a wreck, you're gonna want to report the wreck to your insurance company. And then whether it's your adjuster for your insurance company or the at-fault party's insurance company, if it's a car wreck, it may be a commercial policy if it's a trip and fall or something like that. But the adjuster's going to ask you a whole bunch of questions, and these questions are not questions that are just off the cuff for the adjuster. These are questions that have been thought about, round-tabled, designed, implemented to get information from you that might make your case less valuable. So you want to talk to an attorney before you talk to the insurance adjuster.
Right, just be wary of any recorded statements or anything like that.
Yeah, exactly. So I'd say tip number 3 is if you do decide to hire a lawyer, stay in touch with that lawyer and work with he or she closely throughout the pre-litigation process. Let them know what's going on with your medical treatment. Let them know anytime something changes, if you have a different procedure you need to go through. Just keep them in the loop as to what's going on. And then also, if you have to file a lawsuit or your lawyer files it on your behalf, work very closely with your lawyer getting ready for any kind of testimony, meaning deposition testimony or trial testimony, because you don't want a lawyer that's going to tell you what to say. I mean, I honestly think lawyers that tell witnesses what to say ought to be disbarred. But there are ways to present your testimony and to answer questions to make it more effective. And the better you do during testimony, the more likely you're going to be to receive a higher settlement offer from the defense.
Right, and kind of too, staying in touch with the lawyer. Anytime, I always tell my clients, anytime you get something in the mail, whether it be from the hospital, the ambulance, whatever, just snap a picture, scan it, just give that information to your lawyer, because if you don't give it to the lawyer or their office, they're not going to know it exists, right? So keep good records. Another example would be, if I have clients that, say they're contractors and they're 1099, they miss a job, or they miss an opportunity to earn a living or do something, keep good records of that, because when we go to submit the demand and ask for those lost wages, if we have documentation, it's that much more effective.
Yeah, you're not going to recover lost wages unless you've got the documentation to back it up. So
exactly.
You got to make sure you have that stuff. Same way with the medical records and bills, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You got to be able to document it because nobody's just going to take your word for it.
Exactly.
Nor are they just going to take our word for it.
Right.
We got to have the evidence to prove it. So,
right.
What's number 4?
Fourth thing is social media, right? It's sort of, the good, the bad, the ugly of social media. I generally just advise my clients, if you're on it, just stay off of it. Don't go delete or do anything like that. Certainly don't go, alter anything, but just stay off of it. There's no good that can come out of social media from the time you've been in the wreck until your case is resolved. Even if it's just what you think is a relatively minor picture of you hanging out with family or whatever it might be, the defense or the insurance company, they're going to be looking and they're going to try to use it and twist it in a way to make it either seem like you're not hurt or you're not as hurt as badly as you say you are. So as a general rule, just stay off of it because if you're off of it, they can't even take anything from it. So.
Yep. And I'll tell you something else too, like Chase said, stay off of it. If you're one that regularly engages in debate on social media, especially with politics or whatever, especially stay off of it then because you're likely to say things or post things that out of using emotion and not logic. If you've had a few drinks or if you're injured bad enough to have pain medication in you, really don't get on social media then because you will say something you don't mean and it could come back and hurt your case. So general rule with social media, stay away from it during the pendency of a personal injury claim.
Yeah.
All right, so I would say number 5 is as soon as possible, secure all the evidence that you can. And if you have contacted a lawyer, work with that lawyer to secure the evidence. Some examples would be, let's say it's a trip and fall case at a store. Well, the store is probably going to have surveillance or security camera footage. They're not going to preserve it unless you tell them to, right? And you need to tell them to do that in writing. And there's certain ways, at least in the state of Georgia, that we can do that to make them preserve that evidence, even though they don't have to show it to you.
Right, they just have to hold on to it.
Yeah, but they do have to preserve it if you ask them to do that. So especially in that situation, you want to work with a lawyer. After a car wreck, what are some examples of things to preserve after a car wreck?
Yeah, just the common sense things, right? Take pictures. Everyone has a cell phone, so take pictures of the car, the property damage. If you're able to walk around at the scene, take pictures of the other vehicle. Take pictures of your injuries, especially in the days, kind of showing the progression as they either get worse or get better, so you have that documented. Those are the big things, right? And it's real simple to just snap them with your phone. So I always tell clients, take pictures. And, a lot of times we'll go out and investigate a wreck as well, depending on the severity and things like that. But, taking pictures is, I think, vital in most cases, for sure.
And if you think that the other side's going to act like they're not at fault for the wreck, then it may be a good idea to give their insurance company a chance to inspect your vehicle before it's fixed.
Right.
Because it is evidence in the case, and if you get it all fixed without giving the other side a chance to inspect it, then you could get yourself in some hot water later on in the case. So just use caution with that, and that's one of those things that a lot of people don't know. But is another good reason to speak to an attorney as quickly as possible so that they can advise people of that.
Right, and also too, you touched on it a little bit ago with sending those preservation letters, meaning telling whoever it is to preserve any evidence they may have. In car wreck cases, if it's a disputed liability, meaning it's a he said, she said, red light, green light type situation, you can go to the scene and see if there's like a gas station at the corner or Wendy's or something like that and see if they have video. Again, they don't have to give it to you, but you can give them a letter or call up and speak with the manager and say, hey, will you just hold on to that video just in case we do need it? Because a lot of times it'll have some good information on it. So, all right, so number 6. What is number 6? Number 6 is kind of, this is a tip that comes in once the case, well, not necessarily when the case has been filed, but it's about funding, right? So litigation loans. A lot of times people, when they get in a bad wreck and they're out of work, they don't have a source of income. And it is a very real problem, a very real situation when you don't get your check and rent's due. And one of the things that you can do if you've been involved in a car wreck and it's someone else's fault is get what's called, like a pre-suit or a pre-litigation loan, where a company will, basically it's an advance on any settlement you may get in the future. Now, as a general rule, I say run for the hills from these, but I also understand and know that they are a lifeline to a lot of people in a lot of cases. So I always tell my clients, if you're thinking about it, think long and hard about whether or not if you really need it. Because it costs money just to take it out, and it costs money to get it transferred to your bank account, and then the interest on these things it's crazy. And it's crazy because it's a huge risk for the companies that are loaning the money, because if the case is not successful, then they lose out, right? They're not coming after you to get that money, it's just the money's gone. So that's why the interest and the rates are as high as they are, but they're always very difficult to, I don't want to say difficult to get around, but when it comes time to resolve the case, and you realize how much you have to pay back, it's certainly sticker shock. So,
yeah, and I'll be blunt. If there's any other possible way to get the money that you need, do not take out a pre-litigation loan.
yeah.
Like Chase said, the interest rates are absurd. You may pay them back more than you took out, especially if your case lasts 2 or 3 years. Every time I've had a client that took out a significant amount for a pre-litigation loan, when it comes time to settle the case, not every time, but a lot of times it's been an impediment to settlement, because the person who's taking the money out forgets,
right.
I've already gotten 50 grand or whatever from my settlement. Plus I had to pay back 90 grand or 40 grand in addition to that in interest. But you know, then the insurance company is offering $250, and after you pay legal fees and expenses and your doctor's back, you get nothing. But you really did get something. But the client never looks at it like, oh, I've already gotten something. They always look at it like, well, I'm not going to get anything out of this, so I'm not going to settle the case. Then you could go to trial, and you have all the risk associated with that. So,
right, and I think too, it's bigger cases that require larger loans and things like that are going to take a lot longer to resolve. You know, take COVID out of it. Even pre-COVID, the larger cases with larger insurance policies, I mean, the insurance companies are going to hold on their money as long as they can.
Yeah.
So those are 2-3 year cases. If you get a loan out at 6 months in, and that case ain't going to settle for another 2 years, the longer you have it, the larger and larger and larger it gets. So they're just generally a bad idea, but again, there's certainly a time and place that they're necessary, but if you can't avoid it at all costs.
Yeah.
So.
Generally, when people take those loans out, they do not look like the people on the television commercials that are smiling saying, this company gave me this money and I'm so happy about it. You might be happy when you get the check, but you're not going to be happy when you have to pay it back. So, like Chase said, sometimes you have no other choice, but if there is any other alternative, avoid them at all costs, because they will significantly decrease your net recovery out of any personal injury claim. All right, so number 7. I used to see this a lot when I lived in South Georgia, and I practiced law down there. I see it a pretty good amount here too. But somebody comes to our office and they say, look, I'm not the kind of person that wants to sue anybody. I just want my bills paid. All right, that's great. That's the way most people are. Most people don't want to sue somebody.
Right.
Most people just want their bills paid. But don't ever tell that to the insurance adjuster, because if you tell that to the insurance adjuster, then they're immediately going to flag your case as one that they can settle for cheap, because they know that this person is the kind of litigant or claimant that's going to be satisfied with a small amount, and you may absolutely be leaving a lot of money on the table. So never minimize what you're seeking to an insurance adjuster if you speak to them before getting in touch with a lawyer.
Right, because I think as soon as you say that, the insurance company automatically knows that they are 100% going to settle the case for less than what the actual value of the case is worth. And I'm not even talking jury value, I'm talking like settlement value, but for the fact they don't have an attorney, right? So if you say, I just want my medical bills paid, that's just, like you said, a flag for the insurance company to say, okay, well, I know that, let's say they had health insurance, for instance. Well, I know they probably paid $40 for co-pays or $100 for co-pays, and they might have spent out of pocket $500. So I might offer them $1,000, and they think they're getting a great deal. But what they don't know is that they're not entitled to their co-pays and all that. They're entitled to what the full amount of their medical bills are. And a lot of times the clients don't even know what the full amount is, because they might get the bill, but they're only concerned about what their portion is that they have to pay. So when they hear, I want to get my medical bills paid, they think they can just offer a little bit amount and all that and be done. The good news is that even when our clients do say that to the insurance company doesn't offer them that much, so they call us anyway, and then they're pleased to find out that what they're going to get is a lot more than what they would have, you know, otherwise settled for. So.
Yeah. You know, the first thing I hear when somebody tells me, I just want my medical bills paid, if I'm the insurance adjuster.
Yeah.
Awesome. I don't have to pay lost wages.
Right.
I don't have to pay for pain and suffering. I don't have to pay for all these other damages that the law entitles somebody to recover.
Exactly.
So just be very careful what you say to insurance companies. So, all right, to sum it all up, 7 secrets to getting a big settlement is seek medical care quickly, contact a lawyer quickly, stay in touch with your lawyer, work with them throughout the litigation process, avoid social media, secure all of the evidence that you can shortly after the incident that you're injured in, avoid pre-litigation loans if at all possible, and be very careful what you tell the insurance company, but certainly don't tell them that I only want my bills paid.
Exactly.
You got anything else?
No, I think that's it. I think we covered a lot. So.
All right, cool. Well, if this video has been helpful to you, we would appreciate you subscribing to our channel, liking the video, and if you have any additional tips to get a big settlement, go ahead and insert those comments in the comment section below to help your neighbors and friends or anybody else that may be watching this video.